In esports, there are always big names, players you see at every major tournament. Faker for League of Legends, Hungrybox for Smash Bros. Melee, No-Tail for Dota 2. At some point, there is an established scene, with a list of names you always expect to see in the top 16 bracket of a big tournament. But in card games, things are different. You always see new faces. These are the top 8 players of Rage Spring 2022, one of the biggest Shadowverse tournaments. Can you guess how many players have been seen at this level before? The answer is 0. Why is that? Why is it so difficult for talented players to dominate their scene? There are 2 main factors. First, the influence of luck is much bigger in card games. You strategize, prepare a lot ahead of the tournament, but once you've entered, it's all about making the best out of the cards the game gives you. Second, new content is added every 3 months, and with balance patches, the metagame evolves every month. In Smash, it's not like Joker or Cloud's Kid is going to change between seasons, but in Shadowverse, it's like you always have to relearn your character and its matchups. So when a player tops regularly, when they put in the effort every month to keep up with the recent strategies, so that every tournament they register in could be the one they win, and they actually manage to top an event with thousands of participants, not just once, but multiple times, they become a legend. Today we'll be talking about one of the legends of Shadowverse, and his name is Shimon. Shimon touched all popular card games during his childhood: Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic, Pokemon, and more. But the one that clicked for him was Shadowverse. With many similarities to Hearthstone, Shadowverse's main appeal is the evolution mechanic. In the middle of the game, you get 2 to 3 evolution points that you can use to boost your followers, make them attack immediately, and regain control of the game. In Shadowverse, there are 3 formats: Rotation, which uses the last 5 released expansions only; Unlimited, using all expansions ever released; and Take 2, the draft format. While official tournaments use exclusively Rotation, Shimon also plays a lot of Take 2, and this is how he's going to get noticed. In 2018, having multiple tops in JCG, the Shadowverse Japanese Weekly, in the Rotation format, but especially in the Take 2 format, he's going to get approached by a professional team, XYZ, to train their players at Take 2. World Grand Prix 2018 is coming. There's $1 million on the line for first place. Potwasher, the favorite from America from Tempo Storm, an organization founded by Reynad, a Hearthstone pro player, approaches Shimon to request his coaching too. Even if Potwasher will get unlucky on the day of the World Championship and lose both his Take 2 games, he will still finish second place and become another icon of Shadowverse. But that's for another day. Shimon doesn't want to just coach others and watch them succeed for the rest of his life. He wants a taste of victory at major events too. He wants to be like those players at the World Championship, playing the best Shadowverse of their life and fighting for the big prize money. So he starts looking for a team. Shadowverse is a solo game, but a team provides an environment with other players discussing the meta, sharing their deck lists, playing with each other, and reaching a high level of play much faster than someone alone. Knowledge gathering is a race in this game, with the metagame potentially changing every month. But he isn't satisfied with any Japanese team he joins. So he looks back at WGP 2018, and there he notices a special team, Team Revelation, a Western team that sent 2 French players to the World Grand Prix, Mensu and Hishiro. Hishiro didn't come off as strong as Potwasher, but he still managed to get to top 8, fighting head-to-head with Feg, the world champion of that year. For Shimon, this could be what he needs: the knowledge and playstyle from the West, world-class scrim partners, and a good reason to practice his English. So in July 2019, he joins Team Revelation. Setting his eyes on the World Grand Prix for 2020, he starts training. The problem is, the road is long, as Japanese players need to go through Rage. Okay, let me explain to you how Rage works. It's the biggest offline tournament of the country, gathering 6,000 to 10,000 players at Makuhari Messe, and it has 3 phases. The first phase is the preliminaries. On the first day, you need to win 4 out of 5 matches in best of 3 and 6 out of 7 matches on the second day. You register with 2 decks, and all matches are in the BO3 closed decklist conquest format. This means you need to win with both your decks to advance, and you don't get to know what your opponent is playing. But Shadowverse players usually know the deck list for all meta decks by heart, and with just the first card you play, they'll know which deck you're playing. The second phase is the playoffs, taking place a month later. No more room for mistakes. You have to win 1 to 3 matches against the other survivors of Day 2 and come out on top of your bracket. And finally, the third phase, the Grand Finals, reuniting the last 8 players on the 3rd month of the expansion cycle. The 2 finalists will qualify for the World Grand Prix. I think you are starting to understand how difficult it is. To reach Grand Finals, you need to win 13 best of 3s out of 15, without getting unlucky or making a game-losing mistake. On top of that, you need to keep up with a constantly evolving metagame over the different phases. That's the kind of challenge Shimon is going to have to beat if he wants people to remember his name. In January 2020, the current expansion was Ultimate Colosseum. During that period, the deck to beat was Quan Rune. Quan summons his servants that can protect his leader and attack directly the opponent, but to summon him, you need to draw him, then play spells first to reduce his cost. If you started with Quan in your hand, you could summon it as soon as turn 6, and at that time, it was very hard to deal with so many stats hitting the board at once. Everyone believed that as long as you got lucky enough times to get a turn 6 Quan, you could advance through the tournament. But Shimon refused to play Quan. He refused to leave his fate to drawing a specific card in his opening hand enough times. Instead, he cooked a totally new deck, something no one has seen before. Path to Purgatory is a neutral card from the classic set, the very first Shadowverse set. At the end of your turn, if you have 30 shadows, a counter that increases when your cards are destroyed or with effects, you deal 6 damage to your opponent and their entire board. The condition is very slow to fill, but once you've done it, you just have to wait until your opponent dies in a few turns. Hades, Father of Purgatory, is a card that summons Path to Purgatory on turn 6. Contrary to the base version, it's possible to search it from your deck. This will spark an idea in Shimon, who decides to build an entire deck around Hades. And while no one saw this coming, Shimon destroyed the Rage preliminaries with it. It's now March 2020, the Grand Finals. The top 8 is in best of 5, open deck list, so this time your opponent knows what they are playing against. But does it truly matter when your opponent is playing something you've never seen before? Shimon brought Hades' Shadow to either take it all or lose on the spot. Game 1. He cues his Hades' Shadow, the special surprise. But his opponent cued Roach Forest, the worst possible matchup. The Rhinos Roach's attack grows by 1 every time you play a copy of it, and Ishii no Hara is looking to return it to hand and replay it again and again until it can one-shot Shimon's health. He manages to set up Path to Purgatory and play wards, but Ishii no Hara keeps on healing and clearing. And on turn 10, he draws a bounce out of his top deck to replay Rhinoceroach to his hand and take the win. Game 2. Ishii no Hara shows the weakness of the spell boost deck. If you don't draw Quan early, you don't have enough pressure. With a big tempo play on turn 7, healing with Gensetsu and setting up Hades, Ishii no Hara doesn't have enough damage in hand, and the 2-turn clock is not enough for him to do anything about it. Game 3. Shimon switches to Evolve Sword, a deck that wants to control the board in the mid-game. This time, his opponent gets the turn 6 Quan. He hesitates to evolve, but he's scared of what can come next, and chooses not to. But Shimon had anticipated that. On the previous turn, he traded Kagemitsu. This old man comes back on the next turn after he died, evolves, and gains attack and defense equal to the number of times Shimon evolved this game. With Shizuru and an evolution point, he easily clears Quan and his Shikigami, and Ishii no Hara has no follow-up. Kagemitsu can just boost himself again on the next turn and win the game. Game 4. This time, Shimon is on Roach Forest, but Ishii no Hara has a very good hand, with 3 Quans. He plays huge board after huge board to force Shimon to use all of his board clears. This time, Shimon has to sacrifice his Roach to clear the board, and he loses the attrition battle. Game 5. After this game, everything will be over for one of these two players. We don't know for sure if there is some kind of entity above us. We don't have any proof there is a divine. The original religion in Japan is called Shinto, and according to it, there are forces of the nature everywhere that we don't see. By cultural influence, whenever a player gets insanely lucky, Japanese casters like to say, Un no Megami, the goddess of luck, is on their side. And this time, she has chosen Shimon. He plays Roach on turn 1. He knows his opponent's deck list, so he knows there are no cards that can remove it on turn 2. So he bounces his Roach and plays it again. And again. And again. That's a high roll when you have the perfect hand and you kill your opponent on the fastest theoretically possible turn. Turn 6 win, and Shimon is in the top 4. Top 4. Game 1. He opens with Roach again, but this time, he doesn't play on turn 1. He knows his opponent has Magic Missile, a spell to deal 1 damage to it and instantly ruin his game. So he plays patient. He starts revealing Roach on turn 4, and Moon doesn't draw Quan. Turn 7, with a series of top decks, he gets to one-shot his opponent. Game 2. On turn 5, his opponent leaves his Steadfast Samurai alive. Fatal error. Shimon evolves it and buffs it to a 5/5 with Ivory Sword Dance. Steadfast doesn't take any damage by battle, and Moon only has 3 damage from effect. He gets another copy on the next turn, but it's too late. Shimon is ahead in damage and takes the win. Game 3. Hades, his favorite deck. His opponent cues Roach Forest since he knows it's the deck's worst matchup. He wants the set to last until Shimon makes a mistake. But Shimon has a special strategy against Roach. Airbound Barrage is one of the main ways to return Roach to your hand, to replay it and make it grow. But to play Barrage, you need to target an opponent's follower to deal 3 damage to it. So to play around it, Shimon will be very precise and make sure to never leave a target on the board, destroying his followers by himself. Moon finds himself with 3 copies of Barrage that he cannot use. On turn 7, he finally draws Hades and sets up the path to Purgatory. But Moon is running a tech card to ruin his day. Slash of the One of the only ways to destroy amulets in the card pool. Shimon takes the L and moves to the next game. Or this is what should have happened.
墓場にいないということで、おです。これはすべきした。ようやく大きい。大きい大きい。2枚目のメフェの道。
Playing one last ward, it's too late for Moon to use his Airbound Barrage. He cannot kill Shimon or heal out of path to Purgatory's range. Shimon's favorite card, Hades, brings him to the finals and gives him what he wished for, the qualification for the World Grand Prix.
そして次はいよいよ決勝です。意気込みをお願いします。
正直自分の目標は世界に行くことだったんですけど、ここまで来たらシリーズ持ってきた3デッキと一緒に優勝してそのまま世界へ向かいたいと思います。応援よろしくお願いします。
はい、決勝。
This final set is a close one. Both players win one game after another. 2-2. But in game 5, on turn 9, after 1 hour of playing without making any faults, doing the best with the hand he's given, Shimon snaps.
おっと、シモンやってしまった
He thought he had lethal by playing Regal Wildcat, giving Storm to his other follower to attack directly. But Wildcat needs 10 followers to have been destroyed this game, and he only has 9. Nagima knew that, and on the previous turn, he made sure to use Yuki Ona's effect to prevent his follower on the board from attacking, so that he cannot crash it and get his 10th follower. The fight goes on, but Shimon already missed his opportunity, and Nagima takes the win. So normally, the story would end there. Shimon would enter the small circle of Rage finalists, patiently wait for the World Grand Prix in December, and get forgotten if he didn't perform there. But it's not what happened. In September 2020, Shimon does it again. He reaches the grand final of Rage, but when you look at his presentation, something is different. Something is missing. The REV tag after his name has disappeared. On May 11th, 2020, Shimon parts away with Team Revelation, the home of World Grand Prix players. Is it because he got disinterested in team activities after winning his golden ticket? The public will never know. It means Shimon's top in spring was the first and last time a team outside of Japan made it to top 8 in Rage. He's now back at being a free agent, and now will have to gather knowledge on his own. This is 6, Milteo, the Lovers. It comes from the Fortune's Hand expansion, centered around the tarot cards, and it's the second best card of that set, right behind Zelgania the World. Players would play it on turn 5 to build a strong board and advance their conditions for powerful invoke cards coming from their deck. But this card has a secret. Another mode that reveals itself only to those patient enough to discover it.
Your better half is right here with you.
You see, if you wait until turn 9 to play Milteo, it evolves, destroys 6 other followers on both sides of the board, and reduces your opponent's defense to 6. Judged too slow, this form got ignored by most players. But in combination with Gremory, Legendary Skeleton, and Thoth, that gives the effect deal 2 damage when this is destroyed to all followers you play after her. You can effectively reduce your opponent to 6 health, then deal 6 damage to instantly win the game. And Shimon will base his entire strategy around this 4-card combo.
30枚到達。一気にグレモリーから回り始めましたシモンのネクロマンサー。続いて2度目の準決勝進出となりました。さらに黒騎士の騎士、そしてレジェンダリースケルトン。これでこれをミルティオシャレパターン、ここでオール6点。そしてラストワードしっかりと取り切りました。
This time, his finals opponent is Fee, an old player by Esport standards who is also playing an odd deck at this level, a Havencraft control. Game 1. Fee takes the win quickly with an aggressive start. Game 2. His opponent uses Hades, Shimon's own creation, against him. Fee plays Hades, summoning Path to Purgatory. Shimon knows it, he's on a clock, and he is missing one part of his Milteo combo. It looks doomed, but when turn 9 comes, he top decks Legendary Skeleton.
レジェンダリースケルトンガッツポーズ決まった。これはすげえ。まるでラグナツェルがですね。そうですね。もう避けようがないですからね。有無を言わさぬこの勝利。
Game 3. Fee is on the more classic Milteo deck. Pushed at 1 defense, Shimon defends for a turn, but ultimately has to concede. Game 4. Fee's weird Havencraft control is a good matchup for Shimon's Roach deck. On turn 9, he gets the kill and takes back the series to 2-2. The next game will decide who gets the title. But this time, luck is on Shimon's side.
どんどんバンカード探しに行きます。さあ持ってくれ。持ってきた。競争の戦士。シモンのヴァンパイア。輝かしき成績。なにわのラブファイターウィナーシモン。俺がナンバーワンだ。
He made it. He took the Rage Trophy. The bittersweet taste of defeat in spring is gone. And now, Shimon looks unstoppable. When he was at his peak, favorite to win the WGP, COVID happened. Cygames took the decision to delay it for a year and merge the people who qualified in 2020 with the people who would qualify in 2021 into one big tournament. 48 players, double or nothing. $2 million is now on the line. So, what to do? With a year in front of him, Shimon took this time to start content creation, mainly focusing on ratings, the best of 3 ladder, and sometimes giving us some memorable moments.
全部顔。ほ？全部顔だ。全部顔。どうや。
At this point, he had become a major influence in the competitive community, with 4,000 followers on Twitter waiting for him to drop the secret deck no one thought about, and copying it to surprise everyone. Now the story should move on to December 2021, right? After all, there is no way something will happen before, right? Despite being already qualified for WGP, meaning he didn't need to participate in Rage, he managed to get to top 8 again. In the 7 years of Shadowverse, only 4 players have made it to top 8 of Rage 3 times. Now, I see you coming, with those excited eyes. What did Shimon do to make the difference? What is the special deck he brought this time? During that season, Artifact Portal was the best deck. Mobilized Factory meant every turn could become a huge tempo swing and let the player draw a bunch of cards to gather their combo pieces. It only had one weakness. You had to do nothing on turn 5 except play it. Shimon decided to capitalize on this weakness with his aggro sword, and the message he sent to his competitors was clear. If you play Factory, you're dead.
高にするようなアルベールの5点込みそして笑顔を見せましたこれでそのまま TK 決まりきりましたいるのでトリニティパスワードたち一回消していきます横展開を取るのが苦手何度かこの線ならばしょうがないというそんなうなずきでした最後はアルベールしっかり削りきりました
Sadly, despite his incredible plays on Aggro Sword and the other meta decks, in Game 5 of the finals, Kendama pulls out an incredible boardlock play. Shimon does not draw his answer, and will have to concede the title. Still, to this day, he remains the only player to have made the Rage finals 3 times. On the other side of the world, a certain player named Hishiro, who inspired him in the past, is now the one copying his strategy, and taking a Shadowverse Open monthly win with the same strategy. Shimon had become the idol of one of his previous idols. Now, the momentum that died at the WGP Delay's announcement is back with him. All eyes are set on Shimon to win the hardest Shadowverse tournament ever. As I explained before, the players who qualified in 2020 play against each other on the first day, and the ones from 2021 on the second day. The top 4 of each day after a Swiss round bracket will make the top 8 in the grand finals. WGP was made of 5 rotation rounds and 2 take-2 rounds. Of course, Shimon crushed his opponents in take-2, as it is his original specialty. After round 4, he is still undefeated. But on the very last round, round 7, the one that will determine the top 4 qualifying to the grand finals, fate strikes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is how both players qualified to this tournament in the first place. So back in 2020 Spring Championships in Rage, Negima won over Shimon, and now to rematch that exact same match in the final round of the first day of World Grand Prix is just insanity. And they have the exact same record too. If whoever wins this is pretty much secured for top 8, and whoever loses, well, down to tiebreakers then.
Game 1. A Last Words Shadow Mirror match. It's a grindy game where Shimon gets ahead in resources. He deals the finishing blow with the spicy tech he put in his deck. Advent of Peace, a neutral spell judged mediocre by most players, but watch what it does in Shimon's hand.
Had enough, right? Advent of Peace number 2. And it gets the Shadow General. Celeste Omega to prevent Necro Impulse on the opposing side.
Oh, you love to
Shadow
see
General evolved to summon the Shadow Commander.
This is what we expected when we saw that it's going to be a Last Words mirror match.
Oh, it's happening.
The two players have known each other for so long. Even in a situation so tense, you can see Negima having so much fun. Game 2. This time, it's Negima using the anti-factory technique, developing a threatening board before Shimon's turn 5. This gains him enough time to win with Ladika's OTK combo. Game 3. Shimon does his best to prepare his own Ladika combo and take back a game. But luck is on Negima's side.
He's looking for the Ladika.
Feel me? Touch sensors activated.
Excuse me? Ladika, pick up the phone, man.
Excuse me?
Okay, so the Ladika is in hand, but I don't think... Can he make this work? Like, even with
4 wards in his way?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, that second Chris was like, it's backbreaking, right? Like, how are you gonna get through this?
Shimon does his best to break through Negima's defense, but it is not enough. 2-1 for Negima. Game 4. Not drawing Ladika, but Negima's Belphommet Portal is a very slow deck, letting Shimon all the time he needs to set up his plan B, a huge Sekka.
16, 19 damage, right?
Yep. Resolving 9 tailed fox here, coming down all the way to
Plus Shamu Shama, yeah. He's just flexing at this point, man. What is this? Hey!
We'll have my victory one day.
19 to the face, and Shimon's gonna tie it up with a 2-2.
Game 5. It's turn 5. Shimon is playing Artifact Portal, but he did not draw Mobilized Factory. Negima gets very lucky with Fudo's random damage, basically enabling absolute tolerance, his main burst option, much sooner than he should normally have. He uses that lucky moment to apply a lot of pressure, and when Shimon needed Factory the most, he overdraws it.
Ah!
Not like this! Not like this!
When you have 9 cards in hand and you try to draw another, it gets destroyed. Shimon fights like a lion to stay alive, but he has used too many resources.
I don't think, he might be able to clear everything. But no matter what happens, if he doesn't win this game, I think Maisha just wins, right?
And that means
Negima knows it. The 5 damage at the start of the turn, and Maisha comes down. Evolve and win. Negima will be the one to take this legendary set 3-2.
Yo, look at him popping off! Let's go!
With a deck made of Shadowverse's biggest nemesis, his nemesis, Negima, takes the set. The standings appear, and it's a disaster. 5th place. Shimon loses his chance to achieve his dream, winning the World Championship to the tiebreakers. There's always next time, right? With that level of play, it's only a matter of time before Shimon becomes the world champion, right? Except, there wouldn't be a next time. Psy Games did not organize another world championship in 2022 and 2023. Winning Rage or your region's invitational was the best players could aim for during that period. Even if it's still a lot of money, it doesn't have the same prestige as a tournament reuniting the bests in the world. It hurts to say, but the Shadowverse player that was considered the most consistent, the most innovative, and potentially the best in the world never got to play in a World Championship Grand Finals. Such is the reality of the world of card games, compared to other esports. In 2022 and 2023, Shimon still played and streamed regularly. Sadly, he didn't manage to top Rage again, only got to the playoffs, which is already an impressive achievement on its own. The game had changed a lot. Players had all stepped up in their deck building skills, and it became harder and harder for someone like Shimon to surprise people with something they had never seen before. Shimon himself wished to invest more in real life than in games. With the announcement of Shadowverse Worlds Beyond's delay, the sequel of Shadowverse, he stopped streaming at the start of 2024. Now, all players are waiting for the new game to come out in 2025 to see if the legend will return. What's sure is that there will never be another player like Shimon.